first one is Kroton. So this is a Brazilian company which trades on the Brazilian market under the code KROT. It's basically been around for about 3 or 4 decades, and it has consolidated lots of different private schooling and tertiary institutions in order to become one of the largest companies there. Market capitalization $7 billion US, which is, you know, X billion number of Brazilian real. Raise, and it is on a price earnings ratio of 13.4 and a dividend yield of 2.6. It looks pretty good though. I mean, in that market, very similar to South Africa. We know there's a lot of corruption in the Brazilian government sector.
Yes, so I guess again looking to the private sector to provide something that normally the government would provide, being education. This business is a bit more mature. What struck me was the absolute scale of it. So they say they've got 1 million students, which
School students,
well, the total students, actually half of them are online, over half of them are online, and then still over 450,000 physical students. So, and you can see the growth metrics, say maybe a few years beyond South Africa in terms of conversion to the private education sector. So growing in sort of mid-single digit compared to double digits in South Africa.
Look, Brazil is an interesting country rather, because it's had lots and lots of political ructions. They've lost a couple of presidents. They now have ongoing corruption claims, even against the current ones, which has created a very negative mood. That has occurred simultaneously with a big, strong slowdown in commodity prices. So there you go, iron ore and even the soft agricultural commodities. So the Brazilian economy has been in a recession. So that's not a very positive backdrop. And you can see that. That's a share chart, which is from Google Finance, and it shows that something happened in the middle of 2014, probably the acquisition of one of their core competitors and a number of additional shares in issue. But it's sort of gone a bit sideways. Hasn't done quite as badly, though, as some Brazilian stocks, I'm guessing.
Yes, so yeah, it is quite defensive in nature. What we've also seen is that the government is pulling back on expenditure, and what they had a program called FEAS, which actually provided financing to students for private education.
Interesting. Yeah.
They are dialing that down significantly, obviously, so access to funding puts a lid on growth in student numbers, but they've had to, Kroton themselves have come in with a financing program. So interesting, financing their own students to take their courses.
Yeah, well, that sounds sensible.
Yeah.
One other notable thing is that the founder, Rodrigo Galindo, is still at the helm of the company, and is a very highly regarded fellow who basically started Pythagoras, which was the initial schools, and then that expanded across the entire continent, and still headquartered in Belo Horizonte, which is one of the sort of secondary cities in Brazil. But looks like a nice company. One just additional and perhaps final point is, because they're only listed in Brazil, if you really wanted to buy these, you'd have to find a way of getting a broker in an international market who had access to the Brazilian market and then buy them through there. So there would be concerns around currency convertibility and those kinds of things.
Yes,
is that a real concern?
I mean, it's quite complicated. I guess you know, from a South African perspective, you're not really diversifying emerging market risk away, and they're a little bit more advanced. And you can see the P is much lower than the local stocks, but I mean, you may be better placed looking at South African opportunities.
So hot or not?
The rating looks good. I think long-term Brazil has got potential. Yeah, hot.
Yeah, I got to come to the same kind of conclusion. I like the sector and I like the space. So let's give it the hot, although with a sort of qualification that you'd have to be pretty, pioneering spirit to go out and find them and buy them.